that what I have learned to teach myself to do, since some great losses, not only in experiences but in family, that you've got to keep going, and you've got to be happy, and you've got to be so pleased for every minute you have.
Okay, Mia, quick sound check. Tell me what you had for breakfast today.
Check. I had yogurt sprinkled with a little bit of maple syrup, and I had blueberries, hemp seeds, and walnuts. It's a really good breakfast.
Sounds like a very Mia breakfast.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Pam today. Pam's been on the podcast. Pam Wall has been on the podcast many times before, and I specifically wanted to have you on the intro, Mia, because we both, Pam occupies a special place in both of our hearts, and I wanted to ask you why is that? What is it about Pam that makes you feel so close to her?
I think to me it is she's such an inspiration, but she's also like such a sweetheart, and like I don't think I've ever met a person that is so much full of love and positive energy than her. It's like as soon as you think about Pam, you just smile with your eyes, right?
It's really great, and it came up during the interview. This got pretty emotional because we talked about a lot of the tragedy in her life, and I asked her, does she have to try to be happy all the time? And she said no. That's just her default. She's just one of those people that is happy all the time, and it's infectious, like you say. It makes you, just thinking about her makes you want to smile.
Yeah, but I think also like she also is the kind of person that doesn't put up with any crap. Like I wouldn't say feisty, but like she has like
she's definitely feisty.
She has her own person. Like she has a personality. She's not just sweet. She's also like has some legit stuff behind it. It's hard to describe, but you know exactly what I mean, right?
Yeah, Pam is definitely very feisty. Tell me one thing you remember. I mean, we spent some time at her house back in 2017 when Eastbjorn was docked outside, and her house, we talk about this in this episode too, is like it's like a museum. Tell me your impressions of what her house is like.
I mean, I think it's everything from like all the books on the walls back to like her old logbooks from when they went sailing with the kids around the world, and just every little piece is beautiful, down to the coffee mugs. It's I just love being there, but she also makes you feel so welcome, and I think that's what makes it special. She doesn't treat it like a museum. It's just her living room that everyone is welcome into.
So one thing that came out of I was in Florida to do my medical thing, and I stayed at her house overnight. So I was there for like 24 hours. But we're going to do another season of Sailing Stories, the other podcast that's been dormant for a while. And Pam's going to tell a bunch of her old stories. She's been writing this stuff down. I mean, she sailed around the world in the 70s. Her husband, Andy, I mean, they built their own boat. So Pam, since I left her my recording equipment, and she's been recording, logging all these stories, and we're going to turn that into a season of the Sailing Stories podcast, which is going to come out sometime soon, I hope, once we piece it all together.
That's just amazing, because she has so many stories that needs to be told. I think she tells some bits and pieces in seminars and like articles and everything, but I think it needs to come out like more broad, because she's such an inspiration.
And she's really good at it too. Like I sat there, I showed her how to use the equipment. I was sitting in the living room, and she was at the table with her back to me reading. And there's a skill to reading something you've written down, but like it sounds like she's talking to you. She's really good at it. She loves it. And for her, she's been emailing me. She said it's been so cathartic for her to like go back and go through all these old memories that she has and actually get them down and record it. I'm really excited. I might be most excited about this season of Sailing Stories than any of the other ones. I'm very excited to put this out.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Well, we're in Annapolis next time. When this comes out, Mia, you're going to be on your way back to Sweden with the dude. How does it feel to go home after almost 2 months? Over 2 months.
Over 2 months. No, it feels great. I'm glad we got to land in Annapolis. It's always a special place here, and it's fun to be here, not just for the boat show, because lately we've only been around the boat show and there's so much crazy things going on. So to actually be able to kick back a little bit, work on the boat, see some friends, and so it's been great to be here. But of course I'm looking forward to kind of go home and settle in with the boys, see my family and the house.
And I'll join you in end of August when I get off the boat in Iceland.
I know, been a big year apart this year, but it's all for the good.
It is indeed. Cool. Thanks, Mia. And thanks to everyone out there listening. I think you'll enjoy this one with Pam Wall. Here we go.
Hold fast.
On the Wind is presented by our longtime friends and sponsor, Forbes Horton Yachts. Forbes can buy you your dream boat, can sell your current boat, the 2 happiest days in a boat owner's life, buying your boat and selling your boat. He can help with all that, whether or not he's listing the boats or not. You find your dream boat somewhere else, hire Forbes to be your buyer's broker. Actually, you don't even need to hire him. He just splits the commission with the selling broker. Works very happily like that. You can check out his listings if you're interested at Forbes Yachts. I'm going to steal August's phonetic spelling. That's Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Bravo, Echo, Sierra. That's ForbesYachts.com. I'm excited to see Forbes when I go back to Annapolis. And one of the things I've wanted to do for a long time, we're going to have to make this happen, is August and I love doing these boat shopping podcasts. And I would love to go on Forbes' website and do our little boat shopping about some of the listings he has. That's kind of beside the point. But anyway, if you want to see Forbes' listings and get a preview of maybe a potential podcast idea in the future, again, go to ForbesYachts.com. That's FORBES, ForbesYachts.com. Thanks to Forbes for sponsoring the show. On the Wind is also presented by Dive Blue, who make portable tankless scuba dive systems. We have one on each of our boats, in fact. Enjoy diving on your own terms with a Blue tankless dive system. What is tankless diving exactly? We like to think of it as innovation. Blue's tankless diving system gives divers an opportunity to experience the beauty of the underwater world without the constant worry of having heavy scuba tanks on hand. They carry 2 types of tankless dive systems, the Nemo system for tankless diving up to 10 feet, and the Nomad system, which is what we have on Falcon and Eastbjorn, for depths up to 30 feet. For us, it's not just about having fun. It allows us to clean the bottom of the boats, fix a wrapped prop, or otherwise inspect the keel and things that you used to have to do either with heavy scuba equipment or by taking a bunch of free dive breaths. And this is basically now a critical tool on both of our boats in our maintenance toolkit. So anybody that's a sailor, that's doing your own stuff out there, I highly recommend one of these systems. The amount of money we've spent on divers over the years to clean the hull before a big passage would easily pay for a tankless scuba dive system. So check out the Nemo and Nomad dive systems at diveblue.com. That's DIVE BLU and then the number 3.com. Thanks again to Dive Blue for sponsoring the podcast. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Pam Wall returns to the podcast, live from her living room in Fort Lauderdale. I sat down to talk to Pam about the treasure trove of memories in her house, how she stays happy and inspirational despite the tragedy of losing her husband and daughter too soon, the relationship she has with her son, how she stays fit at nearly 80, and lots more. This is a very emotional and personal interview that I had with Pam, and if you haven't heard her first interviews, I highly recommend you go back and listen to those as well. Pam, I am delighted to be back in your house.
Andy, it's just so great to have you back here. It's been a long time since we haven't been here together. I think it's been 6 years.
2017.
And of course, the last time instead of flying here.
2016 or 17. It might have been. Anyway, it was a while.
And instead of flying in and having to land in pissing rain, you had the boat right across the street here, which was so fun.
So I realized this yesterday. On the Wind, the title of this podcast was conceived in this living room. We sat around here, you, me, Liz, Mia, and Terry, who did the video with you the first time, and we were brainstorming names because prior to that, it was just called the 59 North Sailing Podcast. Yeah,
no, it was fun because we had a lot of suggestions from a lot of people, and we decided that the Wind was the best thing, and look where it's gone.
It's pretty cool. This is the 10-year anniversary this year, 2023. Wow. I started the show in 2013 in September. So come September, we're 10 years in.
This is wonderful. And thank you so much for coming to visit me. And I hope that you come back with the whole family soon.
100%. We will definitely come back with Axel and Mia. All right. You've been on the podcast at least 2 or 3 other times, I think. And you came to Boat Show with us and you were on the panel that we did. In fact, your voice was on the show very recently because we published that panel that we recorded at the Boat Show last year. And I wanted to start this episode talking a little bit about, you got this opportunity to give a speech, like a keynote speech about what was the topic of that? Because I thought it was very fitting to you, and I think it's a fairly, I don't want to say like it's a sensitive thing.
Is this the one that I've got coming up in the fall?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it was. It's an association for older women who want to keep living a very happy life, and I think they come there not only for the camaraderie of other women who are in the same position that they are, but also for someone to suggest to them how not to, what shall I say, get sad or depressed or think of your life as being over, but is that you're continuing it, and you're not only continuing it, but you're enjoying it and having a wonderful time. And that's what I'm going to be talking to these ladies about. And as I told you earlier, Andy, I never practice something when I get there. I read the audience, and I like to see their faces, and I like to ask questions of people. So I'm hoping that what I have learned to teach myself to do, since some great losses, not only in experiences, but in family, that you've got to keep going, and you've got to be happy, and you've got to be so pleased for every minute you have.
So when they asked you to do this, did you feel like, oh crap, am I an old woman now?
Well,
how do you feel about that?
No, I didn't feel like that.
Can you tell people how old you are to give some context?
Yeah, I'm 79 going on 80. But I don't like to think of it that way. I like to think about it as the way I feel about everyday life. And so far, I'm still sailing my boat. I'm still going a lot of wonderful places with my son. I'm still consulting with people on their sailing experiences that they want to have. And I have wonderful friends like you. And this keeps me going. This is what keeps me going.
And how are you going to, how did you do it? I mean, this is a complicated question because I don't know that you know the answer to this, because my feeling is that you're just, like, I asked Matt Rutherford about how he handles fear. I don't think he experiences fear in the same way that other people do. So I'm not sure he understands that question. And I think similarly, if I ask you, how do you manage? I feel like you're such a naturally vibrant, happy person that's like your natural state. But how do you handle, how have you handled the tragedies in your life? Because you've had a lot.
It's a difficult question to answer. I think I have to be grateful for what I do have instead of what I've lost. I've got to be grateful for the wonderful memories that I have. I've got to be grateful that I still have one person in my family, my son, who is so much a part of my life still. And the two of us have felt great tragedy losing my husband and my daughter. But we realize that they're up there saying, you still go, you still keep happy, you still keep sailing, you keep still doing what you like to do, because you're the lucky ones. You're still there, and you're still healthy enough to enjoy them. And the main thing is that you share everything together. And I think that's what keeps me going, is that I have to make Samantha and Andy, who are sailing up in the clouds on a beam reach, I have to make them proud of me and happy that I'm still existing the way I do.
Are you conscious of that, is my question? Do you consciously have to remind yourself of that, or is that your natural state?
No, I think it's my natural state.
Yeah.
I do. And it's interesting because I don't think my son has it. My son, when things go wrong, and they've gone wrong lots of times for him, it really depresses him, and he gets anxious and depressed and everything like that. Me, that's not the way I handle it. The way I try to handle it, and it works, is that I know that Andy and Samantha would want me to be happy for every minute that I have here on this beautiful planet.
Do you tell yourself, is it like a habit of yours to tell yourself that?
No.
It's just a feeling.
It's a feeling now. I feel I'm a very lucky person. I'm lucky to have wonderful friends like you. I'm wonderful to be able to help other people to what I had. That was so fabulous. And I just think that I have wonderful sisters who live close by, and I have a house over my head, and I've got a beautiful boat, and I've got experiences to follow in the future.
Well, it's a perfect segue, because I was going to ask you how much time. I mean, we're in your house, and it's filled with reminders of the adventures that you've been on. I mean, everywhere you look, I mean, it's like a museum in here. It's fascinating. And we were going through your guest book last night, and there's an inscription from Ron Holland from 1965 from New Zealand, and there's Che Blythe from 1972 in England, and you have the scrimshaw, all this stuff, the scrimshaw over there.
My logbooks.
But
my handwritten
all your
logbooks.
you have the bookshelf over there that Andy built, that I only just realized this morning is built in the style of Kandarik's interior, with white surfaces and varnished teak trim on it.
You're very observant, Andy. Yeah.
And little wooden cleats on the sliding door, or sorry, bronze cleats on the sliding doors. But my question is, how much time do you spend reflecting on your past, this incredible life that you've had, versus looking forward to your future and enjoying your present?
That's a really good question. And it's something that Jamie wanted me to do. I've been writing chapters, okay? I have been going through my logbooks, and I've been remembering things with Jamie, and I've been writing them down, not so much to publish or to sell or anything like that, but to have the memories brought back again. And I'm able to put them on paper, and I'm able to read them again and laugh and smile and relive it. And, because of, I mean, I'm sure everybody has their own thing, golf or tennis or whatever.
Golf's my
computers,
thing.
Anything.
Did you know that if I wasn't into sailing, golf would be my second career?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their passion. And of course, I've been lucky because mine is, but not only sailing a boat, that's the small end of it, but meeting, people from all different countries, and seeing my children integrate with children that they had to learn how to speak to them because they didn't have the same language and things like that. And to write it down and remember it is therapeutic for me. And I do not think to myself, I'm going to be happy today. I never have done that. I get happy from doing those kind of things. And I also get happy from having friends like you come to visit me. And I get really excited when I really like people that I'm consulting with, and they become my friends instead of just
who we went to breakfast
people.
this morning with.
Yeah, this morning. So I'm fortunate that I can survive financially, and I'm fortunate that I can keep traveling, and I'm fortunate to have a son who is very protective and loves me and wants to be with me and enjoys my company. Well, I mean, that's a big thing. He enjoys my company.
I asked you this in the car this morning, what your relationship with Jamie was like, because sometimes these family tragedies can do one of two things. They can pull you together, or they can push you apart. And what did you say?
Well, I say that they made my life beautiful. And as I said before, they want me to keep going just like that. If it's only memories, that's okay. We did it, and we were all together as a great family. And I think that both Samantha and Andy would know, I think, that I'm following what they expect of me.
But you and Jamie have become very close because
Jamie
of that.
and I were like this.
Yeah.
And of course, he hasn't found a partner or a mate yet. But he still enjoys his mother's company, which is kind of cool, And of course, I live for him as well. And we still are traveling. It's not maybe on Kandarik as much as we'd like, but we're doing a lot of traveling together and adventures together. And all I can tell you is, Andy, I'm a lucky so-and-so. I can't be bitter about losing two wonderful people. I can be bitter about the pain that they suffered before, but I cannot ever be upset because they're with me every day anyway.
I mean, it's like that's. Oh, look, there's a raccoon on your deck. Does he come to visit often?
Yes, unfortunately.
Did you
he
name
comes
him?
in the middle of the night and he pushes over my pots, my flower pots.
I thought it was a cat. It's like, oh, that's a raccoon.
Yeah.
Does he have a name?
No, he doesn't, but I call him Pooper because he poops a lot.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, you live here in this house, which you guys have. How long have you owned this house? Since the 70s?
I bought this house in 1973.
Does it get lonely here now that you're by yourself?
Very. Because this house used to be called the Red Train Station because I used to have a red carpet in here.
Okay.
The Red Train Station. I would have, especially when Andy and Samantha were alive, friends coming. I mean, we never had, people would sleep on the sofa. These are people that sometimes we'd meet at West Marine and they'd become my best friends. And instead of going to a motel, I'd tell them, oh, come and sleep on my sofa. And they would. And it was always busy in this house. And yes, I get lonely in this house by myself. And then when my dog died, my dog who I had
Maggie.
for 20 years, when Maggie died, it's still affecting me, you know.
So how do you handle that? How do you cope with the loneliness?
I go down to Miami a lot to be with, I was very fortunate to be able to join a yacht club that I love down in Miami, which is fantastic. I love my consulting with my consulting customers. They all become my best friends, even though sometimes I never meet them. And of course, Jamie takes me traveling, you know, like we go skiing in the winter.
Telluride, right?
The Telluride. And then we just got this little place in France where we'll be going a lot. And we spend a lot of time in Italy on the Amalfi Coast together. And it's just, it's an ideal life for, excuse the word, an old woman, you know, who, you know, and Jamie keeps telling me, oh, use Ubers. And I said, no, I love driving my, you know, car. I love driving. So I think that the main thing that people like my age, I'm not going to say older, but people my age have to do is stay fit physically.
I have to admit, I woke up last night to go to the bathroom, and I heard you doing an exercise routine in your room, and I was like, that's the first thing. It reminded me of my grandfather, who's still alive. He's 93, and he did the same sort of thing. He did his like calisthenics every night before bed, and it just struck me that it's like, okay, like this isn't just that's an area where you do put the work in. Like you might be naturally a happy person, but like to stay healthy, you have to earn it.
And you have to keep your body healthy. I go to physical therapy twice a week, and I go to the gym 3 times a week. So 5 days a week, because Jamie insisted on it. And you know what? It changed my life because all of a sudden I could do things that I could run up and down steps, whereas before I'd have to use a handrail and I'd only go one at a time and stuff like that. But it works. If it didn't work, I probably would have given it up. But it worked. And the place in France that we have now, I have 25 steps to get up to my bedroom. And in the beginning, when I went up there, before I started going to the gym, I had, you know, huffing and puffing and going one step at a time. And now I just go up and down.
That's very inspiring. And that is like such a key thing. That's like, that's so cool.
And you know what else? It makes you so much more agile on your boat.
Well, that's a whole other story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing we say it till we're blue in the face. It's like you don't understand, you can't understand how difficult it is just living on the boat when you're at sea.
Yeah.
And people and even still we say that and people say, "Man, I was so surprised at how hard it was." It's like what we told you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just changed my life. It's
Cool.
not a lot of exercising. I'm not a fanatic about it or anything like that. But wow, Jamie was so right. He said, I don't want you to become someone who's handicapped, you know.
Well, that's why
I mean,
asked
handicapped physically.
That's why I asked you at the beginning if you felt like you belonged to that. You know, you said you're giving a talk to a group of old women, and I wouldn't have put you in that category. Like I don't consider you as that. You're a woman of a certain age, but you're not an old woman. Like there's a difference, I think, and I think it's your attitude, but it's also what you just said. You take care of yourself.
Well, the thing is, what I would like to do is inspire these women that I'm going to see up in Fargo, North Dakota, to remember that just because of their age, they can still do physical things that will keep them much happier in life. not to say more comfortable. It'll be more comfortable, much happier, much safer. That's another thing. A lot of people have to wear things around their neck because they're afraid they're going to fall and stuff like that. Oh, and another thing, I know this sounds really funny, but I hope it's okay. You might want to.
I can say whatever you want. Let's say whatever you want, Pam.
To put my underwear on in the morning, I used to have to sit down because I didn't have balance. I couldn't do it. Now, easy peasy. I stand up, I get right into it 1 foot at a time. It's amazing the little things that you find you can do. I used to not be able to open the cap of a bottle. And now, with the exercises that I do at the gym, it's easy peasy. I mean, it's just so weird.
Have you heard me talk about this, the old man challenge or the old person challenge?
No.
It's basically, it's a very simple measure of fitness where you take your shoes and socks off, put them on the floor in front of you, and then standing on one foot, you put your sock and your shoe on one side, and then you switch feet and do the other side. And it sounds quite simple, but it's
I'll have to try that. I think I'll have to practice.
But it's one of those things, and it's such a good thing for sailors because it's all about balance and coordination, and it's a lot of like core strength to be able to stand on one foot and lift your leg up high enough that you can reach your foot, and the rest of that. It's actually a very complicated thing to do, and a lot of young fit people can't do it because they don't have any balance.
That's right, and I've got a kind of a deep cockpit well, with a high bridge deck, as you know.
Yep.
And it got to the point where I'd have to hang on to the bar on over the top of my compass to be able to get up and down because I'd have to pull my. Now I just go up and down just like I used to when I was 36.
Like a monkey. There you go.
Well, it's only because of exercise.
Yeah.
And the right exercise.
Yeah. What is the right exercise? What do you do?
What they kill me with at the gym every day. It's a whole bunch of different things, but it's really interesting. Do you know? I couldn't walk in a straight line with putting one foot in front of the other because I couldn't balance. And now I could walk this whole length, of a gym.
That's really cool. Can
you imagine that?
Well, it's really cool that even at your age, you see improvement. It's not just maintenance. It's improvement.
Oh, I love the improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what keeps me going is the improvement,
So on a slightly darker subject, a lot of the tragedy in your life was losing family and loved ones. Do you ever think about your own mortality?
I know it sounds funny, but I watched the movie where the mother says to the son, and you can probably remember this one, "It's my time. It's just my time." And Jamie and I have talked about this because I have to have a will, and I've said to him, "Jamie, when it's my time, be happy for me. Be happy for me. And I don't want you to be upset." The problem was with Samantha and Andy, it was too soon.
Yeah.
It was too soon. And anyone who loses their lives that early, it's not going to be a happy situation. It's going to be a happy situation with me because it's my time. And that's the way I look at it. It was Forrest Gump. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The movie in Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
When he says, "Mama, are you going to die?" And she says, "It's my time." And so I'm getting goose flesh because I love that movie so much. But I mean, that's the way I feel about it. And I don't have to worry about it.
When Andy and Samantha, remind me here, they were ill.
Andy was never ill.
Oh, he wasn't?
No, we had just climbed the highest mountain east of the Mississippi.
So how did he die?
After we hiked up the mountain, we went back to we have a little sort of a Swiss chalet kind of thing in the mountains of North Carolina. And we were sitting in front of the fire because it's always the fall that we're there. And I went to Andy, said, I'm hungry. Why don't you go make a little hors d'oeuvre for us? And I went in the kitchen and I heard him say, "Pammy, come out." Oh, he was reading Patrick O'Brien, by the fire, enjoying himself. And he wasn't tired. He wasn't winded or anything. And he yelled, "Pammy, come out here." I came out there because I thought maybe there was something wrong with the fire. And he looked at me and his head fell back and he died.
Jeez.
But he didn't hold his heart. His hands went up in the air like he dropped the book like I don't know what's going on. And he died.
That quick.
That's where I want to go.
Well, yeah. The reason I bring this up, the reason I ask is because somebody asked me this, a friend who's also listens to the podcast. So Owen, if you're listening, he asked me what I would like advice, because he's got a family member that's ill, that's like kind of like my mom was, where that it's not going to end well. And he said, "What would you advise?" And I said, the only thing that I regret not doing is I never asked my mom what it felt like to her knowing she was going to die, because we all, it's such a contradiction, because like we were all trying to be super positive and like do the best, but at some point we all knew that there was no way out with the diagnosis that she had brain cancer. And I think I was afraid to ask her, because I thought it would like jinx it and make it actually happen. And now to this day, that's the one thing I wish, because my mom was very philosophical and I'm sure she would have had a very poignant answer, and I never asked.
Well, Andy, it's so similar to me when Samantha was suffering so badly. And Samantha, she had, cancer of the throat, and she never smoked in her life and stuff like that. But when she was really ready, going downhill, and I knew it, she wrote on her little pad, because she couldn't talk. She wrote, "Am I going to die, Mom?" And I'm like you. I said, "No, you're not. No, Samantha, we're going to beat this." But I knew we weren't.
Yeah.
I knew we weren't, because the doctors told us, and I think, luckily, unlike me, my daughter had a religious feeling. And I think, I'm not sure if she was at peace or not, because she was so drugged up, by hospice. And I didn't like that. I wanted her to be herself.
Yeah.
But the doctor said it was the kindest thing I could do. And I'm like you. I regret it. I regret not holding her hand and saying, "This is going to be okay," and stuff like, no, and letting her know that I knew she wasn't going to last a couple of days when she wrote that to me. But, there's just so much you can do, because you see someone suffering, and you don't want to have them lose their hope.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's exactly
Maybe
it.
because I didn't want to lose my hope.
I think it was more of that for me. I don't think, at least in my case, I think my mom was fairly confident that she knew exactly what was happening and was accepting of it. It was me. It was me that didn't want to admit
That's right.
that. Yeah.
That's right. You can't accept it because it's too horrible to lose somebody like that. Like anyone who's dear to you. Doesn't matter what their relationship is, but a mother and a daughter, that's pretty disastrous. And
yet you survived and thrived, and this is what you're going to talk about to your other old ladies.
I don't. If it comes up, I don't want to be mundane either. I want to be positive about everything I talk about.
Yeah,
and I want to encourage them. I mean, it wasn't like I was going downhill purposely. It's just that Jamie kept saying, "If you're going to come with me to Capri, you've got to be able to walk up and down the steps." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So he was the one who urged me to get physically fit, and it made me feel so different that I could start doing things. And it would have been much smarter to live in a house with stairs, because then you would have
Get
to
a little
go up
bit
and
of
down.
exercise,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? But here, there's nothing to exercise except riding my bike, which I do anyway.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have anything to do with real balance of your legs and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to talk about all that kind of stuff.
So, all right, that was pretty deep.
That's how we almost started out the last time we interviewed.
Well, it is. I even think we went further this time,
Yes.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I get to know you, the more comfortable I'm asking you these questions. But I know one of the things that you're excited about, you alluded to this earlier, was the reflecting on the things that you've done. And we talk about a lot about storytelling and stuff. I mean, you were going around the house last night and just these objects, everything in this house has a story behind it.
Right.
So I want to hear some of your stories. I'll prompt you first. We'll probably actually. Can I go grab it and I can show it
Sure.
for people watching the video? Okay,
Yeah.
stand by a second. I'm going to talk about the scrimshaw on the. So if you want to start talking about it while I'm
Okay. My honeymoon, for those of you who do not know me, was in 1972 when this wonderful young man, Andy Wall,
I'll show them to the. So
Did-
this is one.
yeah,
And this is another.
did not ask me to marry him. I asked him to marry me. Okay.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. And you
That's
know what he
bold.
said? He looked at me and he said, okay. And Andy was a typical Australian. He wasn't a romantic, but he was a practitioner. He was practical about everything. And so our honeymoon was on his little 30-foot boat. Remember that he built himself out of wood in Australia when he was a very young man, and then retired from his accountancy that he was working at, and actually he just left, and sailed across the Pacific and then around Cape Horn and up to Fort Lauderdale, where I met him walking down a dock one day. Anyway, he wanted to have he didn't even call it a honeymoon. We got married, at a justice of the peace. It wasn't romantic at all. And that's a whole nother story. I got to tell you that story someday, Andy. That wedding, if you can call it. Anyway, he decided, let's cross the Atlantic and go over to Europe. And on this little 30-foot boat. Now, the boat didn't have a toilet. The boat had a 1-burner kerosene stove. It had a 1-cylinder Volvo Penta engine that you could only start by doing this with your hand and throwing down the compression lever, but that was only to charge the one battery that we had in case we had to put a masthead light on. The boat had nothing on it.
This is in what you said, 72?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I slept on the cabin sole, and my crotch was at the mast step, because there was only the one bunk. And I used to go to the bathroom. I just hang on to the aft stanchion and lean out over the side of the boat. And it was the happiest time of my life. And of course, Andy wanted me to learn everything in case something happened to him. And I think that's what put me in the position that I'm in today. He wanted me to be a co-captain and not a passenger.
Yep.
And a good co-captain. Anyway, we get to, we go to Bermuda, have a wonderful time in Bermuda. Then we go across the Atlantic in this little tiny boat. By the way, catching a dolphin every day.
Wow.
Oh my God, we were so lucky. And we got to Horta, and I think we were one of 5 boats there.
Mahi, you mean?
Mahi.
It's not dolphin the fish, not dolphin the mammal.
Mahi. Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say dolphin. I love dolphins. Not to eat, okay?
Yeah.
To play with. Anyway, we get to Horta, and if you can believe it, for people who've been to Horta lately, there were no marinas there. You just went alongside this greasy, horrible, very high tide and low tide seawall. And luckily they had put runged ladders in, because that's where all the ships would come in too. And we were there, this tiny little boat, just 5 other boats. And this wonderful young man comes over and asked Andy, because Andy was a big, tall, strong-looking guy, if he'd like to go out on the whaleboats, because they were short people in those days. And when the guns went off, because they had gun sites all around the island, if the gun went off, that meant they saw the sperm whales.
Oh, wow.
There were about,
And they were still properly hunting whales
and they
then.
needed it.
Yeah.
There was nothing there.
Because now in Horta, you can still go out on those whale boats, but it's just for fun.
But they're protected.
Yeah, exactly.
No, this was a necessity
Yeah.
for them. And lo and behold, the gun went off one morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we hear, andiamo. And so Andy goes like, yeah. So he ran down, and he had to sign a piece of paper that if he was killed, I wouldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Did you have to sign this
I've
piece of
got
paper?
it in my logbook. I'll show it to you, Andy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And in those days, they were towed out by a kind of boat to where the whales were. And, they had the tabernacle masts. So the masts were down when they were being towed out to sea. And then the whaleboat would disappear, or the power boat. It was
The mothership.
Cutest boat. I have pictures of it. They'd hoist the sails and they'd sail downwind. They'd have to go downwind because that's the only way these boats would sail, the whale boats, and harpoon the whales. And they
Like by hand, like throwing a harpoon?
Absolutely. The guy up there,
Wow.
he's, in the bow of the boat, and I'll show it to you later. There's a little round thing there where his leg would be so he could lean forward when he was doing that. It wasn't the killing harpoon. The first harpoon that they do is the catching harpoon. Then later you get up there and do all the killing. It's terribly gruesome. And
Yeah.
very bloody.
I can imagine.
But I mean, it was their living. I mean, the food, the meat, the oil in its head, the blubber, they used everything. And there was a big whaling station that's still there, I think, but it's not being used, of course. But anyway, so he's out there and he's the biggest guy on the boat. There's, I think, 7 people on the boat, and they've got these great big long oars. And once they harpoon the whale, they have to get the sails down because they know the whale's going to take them for the sleigh ride. So they take the sails down, and then what happens is the whale usually dives down and the boat stops. And then they get these long oars out and they row and they row and they row to where the whale is pulling them slowly. They row. And then the whale comes up, and then the harpoon guys get up there. And then they turn to Andy and go, you. And so he goes up there and he's doing it. And of course, he's missing all the time because he's never done it before. And then they send him back to the oars, and all day long. And they got the only whale that they'd had that season.
The whole season?
And there were 6 or 5 other boats out there at the same time.
Wow.
But I mean, a sperm whale, one whale is big enough for all of them. Okay. And that's where this tooth came from.
From that very whale?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Orton was the local man who took the whale bones in those days and the whale's teeth and did the scrimshaw on them, the real scrimshaw. And if you look carefully, I don't know if it's still here, but if you look carefully, you should be able to see Orton's name.
Okay.
On it. It might be on the other ones
that
they gave me. But, and he came and he said, I really need some line for my boat, and I need some this, and I need some that. And we gave it to him, and then he started bringing us all these whale's teeth as payment for it.
Wow.
And I can remember that night we all were invited, Jamie and Andy and I were invited for dinner with the crew. And we went up to this man's house, and Andy couldn't unclamp his hands from the rowing because he'd never rowed so much in his life.
Wow.
His hands were like, I had to feed him. And of course, they thought that was hysterical.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now, the gun went off about 10 more times while we were there. And every morning, Andy. And nobody ever caught another whale.
Did he keep going out with them?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a cool experience.
And not only that, but the women would come and cross themselves to me like,
wow.
He's not coming back.
Oh, man.
They were, in those days, the women all wore black, long.
Talking to the mic, Pam. Don't forget you have a microphone. Don't forget you have a microphone.
Yeah. And they would come and, like this to me and kiss me like, and that they were the wives of the whalers.
Yeah. So, all right. So for those not watching the video, this particular whale's tooth has a pretty special scrimshaw on it. Can you just describe what's on this one?
We went back, of course, years later in Kendaric, where we stayed at the marina and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. And this one was one of the teeth that Orton gave us. Now, Orton had died, this was years. This would have been the first time we went back was in 1997.
Oh, wow. So this is over 25 years later. Wow. Okay.
But we had the tooth aboard.
Yeah.
And we took it ashore and we found the local person who did the scrimshaw, who did this for us for nothing because we told him that Orton had given it. And of course, Orton was a very well-known
he was the guy.
person. And he did Kendaric for us.
That's so, that is like literally priceless. Like you couldn't get that today.
No, you couldn't.
In this thing, this tooth is enormous. They have the you can still go to the Scrimshaw Museum in Peter Cafe Sport. They have it upstairs and they have you can actually buy some sperm whale teeth because they still wash up on the beach and they're allowed to use those.
They can do those.
But I mean,
they don't get it from the whale anymore.
no, and they're nothing
And then
like
you see
this.
the
I mean,
other two there.
I mean, this thing. I mean, I bought my dad one that was like maybe a third the size of the Kandaric one, and it was several $100s.
Oh.
I mean, that would sell in the museum for thousands of dollars. Nowadays,
look at the detail
it's
on it.
unbelievable.
Look
The
at the
detail
detail.
is truly amazing. I mean, this form of art is just. It's so unique, and you tell the story too. We were talking about this last night, and you said your house was broken into.
Yeah. Several years later, while Andy and I crossed the Atlantic 3 times now, twice in Kandaric and once in Carronade, and we were over in Europe, and someone broke into my house here, and took all my jewelry, and made tore the house apart. But the one thing they didn't take was the most valuable, were the whale teeth. The whale teeth, they obviously were people who didn't realize.
No idea, yeah.
Had no idea.
But wow.
But that little boat over there, too, was also given to Andy.
Yeah.
Because he went out with these guys every day.
So it's what you're saying. It's a model of one of the whaling
Yeah.
boats. Now
There's a
the
model-
raccoon is at your front door. I think he's
Is
going to
he?
knock on the door.
Go away. He poops.
Pooper.
I don't think they're cute. I have to hose the dock down every day.
Oh man.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. And then we went back again, I think 2 more times to the Azores. And we, I just love them. And Mid-Atlantic Yacht Services,
Yeah.
Duncan Sweet,
He's done lots of
Duncan
work for
and
us.
Ruthie. Oh my
Yeah.
God, they were our best friends. We would sleep at their house all the time.
That's so cool.
Which was kind of a nice change from the boat.
Yeah.
And go out to dinner every night to these beautiful Portuguese.
I love
restaurants.
the Horta might be my favorite landfall ever. It's such a cool
I think you're
place.
right. I think you're right. But what's the next one is Praia de Victoria, because it's
Where's that?
It's not. Praia is a little further east.
Okay.
Okay. It's
In the Azores.
in the
Yeah,
Azores. Yeah. Again, a breakwater harbor.
Yeah.
Is there another one up?
I don't know if there's 2 or no. There is 2. There's one at your front door. No, there's 2 at your front door now,
God. Oh,
and
God.
one on the back deck.
Oh, God.
We're surrounded, Pam.
Anyway, and every time we went back there, of course, more of a marina was built. More.
Yeah, sure.
And then we have another friend there.
Talk closer to the mic.
Another friend there, Jim Wells, who lives there, and he used to live here in Fort Lauderdale, and Andy helped him get his beautiful boat ready, Anna, to go to the Azores, and they're still living there too. So I have two sets of good friends there that I'd love to go back and visit.
So I'm going to bring this back to mortality now.
Okay.
You have all these amazing memories that exist as physical objects in this house. You obviously can't take them with you. Do you think what's going to happen to all this stuff?
That's one thing I haven't thought about, but I do know that things like this will go to Jamie.
Was he there?
books.
Was he there for this one, for the Kandaric one? Would he have been?
No, because we wait a second. Was he for this one? Yes, because we were on our way to drop him off at school in France. Yeah,
No way.
That's right. So he was with us.
Okay.
But you know what boat he went on all the time? Wait a second. Oh my gosh, I'll think about it in a minute. Who's the really old guy who had the red boat?
Moitessier.
No, not Matissier.
He had a red
Yes,
boat.
Yes, I used to have his great big picture up here.
Yeah.
With him pulling the camera string. He's in his yellow foul weather gear and the red hulled boat, and this
Yep.
great big green wave is coming
That's
up
so
behind him.
cool.
Bernard, we saw him in Ahe. He was living in a hut there.
Well, we were
Ahe.
just talking last night too, because we just did this book club on the quarterdeck
Oh, that's right.
about the Cape Horn, the logical route, which is Moitessier is my favorite writer, and he's favorite sailing writer, and he's my favorite, and that is my favorite book. And I think you said it was one of yours as well, because it's before he became Moitessier. It basically you learn
it was
with him.
his wife
him
was
and his
with
wife.
him.
Yeah, I didn't
And-
know this. Did you know that at the time? That would have been in 1965 or 66, so before the Golden Globe race. When they did the round Cape Horn, she was the first woman to sail around the Horn on a yacht.
I did not.
I didn't know that either till I reread this
Wow.
book again. It's in the foreword.
I
It
don't
mentions her in
remember
the foreword.
that. Yeah, because I read the book so long ago.
Yeah,
but it was the
it's
first
worth
book.
reread it. It's
Yeah.
really, really great.
It's the first book my husband Andy made me read when I met him, because he said, "This is what we're going to do together."
Wow. Because they basically sailed from Europe through the Panama Canal and then did the whole South Pacific. And the meat of the book is about them going around the Horn, but the first 3/4 is a cruising log of their Pacific trip.
Beautiful, and the excitement of going into the passes and things like that.
My favorite. There's one passage in that book that I like, and I've talked about the most, and it talks about sailing into a harbor at night, and he says he prefers that because there's no self-consciousness where like you can you're not showing off, because he said in the daytime people see you and they think you're showing off when in reality you're just enjoying sailing your boat. So he says at night you can enjoy that and not feel the eyes looking at you thinking, oh, who is this guy with his ego? It's just, for him it's about, no, I just like sailing my boat.
Yeah. Well, the other person that I loved that you reminded me of was Bill Tillman's books, which you saw. I had every one of them up there.
Yep.
He used to say that making a night landfall was the difficulty of it was the lights of navigation from the lights of dissipation.
So there's one more object I want you to tell the story about, and I'm going to see if I think I see it.
Okay.
Come on, no dead air, Pam.
What is it?
It's the belaying pin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now that is a story.
This might be my favorite of all. So, all right, I'm holding in my hand for the camera here. This is it's bronze, a bronze belaying pin off of
Wanderer. Sterling Hayden's Wanderer.
Which is almost unbelievable. I mean, what we're talking about, from my perspective, I'm literally half your age, right? I'm 39. I'll turn 40 next year.
I hate you.
But like all this stuff to me, all these books and all these people we're talking about and all these things, this is all, I mean, it doesn't exist. It's like from a dream, right? It's like, it's so far in my past that I didn't exist, and that it just seems surreal. And yet it was that was when you were doing all this stuff. These people were contemporaries of yours. And it is just surreal that like I can be sitting here holding in my hand something that came off of the boat Wanderer, as if like, because somewhere in my head I didn't actually think it was real, but like here it is.
Okay, so
tell this story.
This is a really cool story. Okay, so Andy was a really intrepid sailor, and he with two other friends, Des Kearns and Bob Nance, sailed across the Pacific on this little 30-foot boat that had 30 inches of freeboard, and no one could stand up in it and everything. And they first sailed across the Pacific and then up to San Francisco. Okay. On their passage across San Francisco, to San Francisco, across the Pacific, they stopped at the atoll where the Wanderer was wrecked. Okay. They went aboard the Wanderer and took 5 or 6 of these off of it. These were their treasures. When they got to San Francisco,
sorry, how long prior had the Wanderer been wrecked? How long had the wreck been sitting there?
No, I don't really know.
Okay.
Can't have been long.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been long.
Yeah.
It was enough that it wasn't destroyed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, they get to San Francisco. They go to Sausalito. They pull into Sausalito after coming from I think it was from the Marquesas. We did nonstop from the Marquesas. Anyway, and this little boat, was tiny. And all of it, one morning, the boat tipped, was literally heeling over with this big weight that jumped on the boat. And the guy knocked on the hull, and it was Sterling Hayden. And he yelled back down, "Give me my belaying pins back." Somebody, I remember, it was Spike Africa. They made friends with Spike Africa.
What a name, right? Spike Africa.
Who was his crew.
Yeah. He was the mate on Wanderer.
Yeah, he would meet Andy and the boys in the pubs where Sterling was he was in a caboose, writing and stuff. No, but
literally a train caboose. I know. Yeah.
Anyway, so Sterling comes forward and wants his belaying pins. So Andy quickly hides one of them and gives them all back to him except for the one.
No way.
Okay.
That's bold. Wow.
Yeah. And of course he came aboard the boat, and oh my gosh, the tales that they could tell. But of course they all got totally drunk on rum, so Andy doesn't remember too much of it, But he became good friends with Sterling Hayden, but he was even better friends with Spike Africa.
Wow. That's so neat. That might be this might be my favorite. Yeah. The scrimshaw are like more beautiful to look at, but this might be my favorite object that I know about in your house. Like, what other secrets are you hiding in here?
Oh, there's a lot.
Well, Pam, this is going to be like a preview, because you and I have talked for a long while now about you've said you want to reflect on this stuff and you want to document this. I want to help you document these stories. And I think we're going to spend the rest of the afternoon today brainstorming on how we can do that, because I mean, these are just two of countless, I assume. And if this is what you like, if I can figure out a way to pull these out of you and get them down, like, that's going to be very special.
Well, I'd like to do it before I'm 90 because I might forget about them all by then. But I would love to do that, because to me, the most important thing in my life now is being so grateful for what I had, mostly because of my parents to begin with, who were wonderful sailors and wonderful people, and then to meet Andy Wall. I mean, it's made in heaven for me. And then our two children, who turned out to be such great friends, great friends. And so I'd like to, I'm not sure if my stories will help other people, but if it will inspire them to do more than just sit at home, then it will be a success to me.
Absolutely. It's a fine line between, this just occurred to me right now sitting here listening to this. It's a fine line between spending the time to reflect on the things you've done and yet continuing to do things. Because those two things are sort of in opposition, right? If you spend all your time sitting around dreaming about the past, then what do you do now? So I've actually found this difficult for me, because I think I spend too little time reflecting and not enough time, too much time planning for the future. And I think you have to do both. You have to have those things in balance.
I totally agree, because first of all, you'll be a bore if you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? If you're always talking about the good old days to your friends, they're going to want to kill you. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally.
But you've also got to look ahead. And that's why I just love presenting. I mean, just being with you last year, I didn't say much, but what I did say, I thought had a little humor and made people laugh. And to me, if you can tell the truth and make people laugh at the same time, laughter is the best medicine. And not to be too serious about everything, but to make it fun and to make it exciting and to make it something you want to do, rather than scare people, And that's what I try to do when I give my talks. And if anybody's listening who wants me to come to a yacht club or to any kind of a situation where you want to have somebody come and just talk about sailing and life experiences on the water, call me. Right? Because as much as I love consulting with people, and it's really technical, some of it, and it's wonderful for me, I really, really, really like being up there and seeing people's faces light up with interest about things that I know they came to hear about, but they weren't sure what they were going to hear.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? So,
well, we're going to work on documenting some more of these stories. I mean, you've only told two now, but it's Pam. You're such an inspiration. It's been such a fun friendship we've had over the years, and I'm sorry it's been 6 or 7 years since I've been back here. I won't make the gap as long the next time.
Well, you've been kind of busy, and besides that, you've been busy making crew.
Indeed,
I mean,
indeed.
Personal and otherwise, and building a new boat that's so gorgeous, and everything that you do, Andy, is wrought with, you have to think about it. You have to hope everything goes well. It's not given to you, Andy. You make it happen. And I think that's what a lot of people forget today. They want to just have it dumped in their laps. But people like you spend hours and hours and hours of your time and your genius to create things, and you don't expect anybody to throw anything in your lap.
Well, that's true. I don't think of it that way. I can't help it. But it's like you can't help but be happy. It's in your nature. So some of this stuff is that's just the way it is. But thank you.
No, I mean it. I mean, you and Mia have done such an incredible job, and I can remember when I first saw you, I think on your Sea Breeze. Mm-hmm. Remember how long ago
2009 in Annapolis, yeah.
Wow. Well, you've come a long way, Andy.
And I learned last night that your dad had a boat a similar boat to the Sea Breeze, because the Sea Breeze was based on Finisterre
That's right.
racing, y'all. And your dad, you told me last night, your dad had a Finisterre sister ship.
Did you have a retractable sort of keel?
Yeah,
as well?
centerboard.
Yeah, centerboard. Yeah.
Yep.
So did we. Yeah, I remember that thing used to go clunk, clunk, clunk.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Or a little bit of rolling.
Did you have the yawl too?
Uh-huh.
Oh, but wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
boat, I'm still in touch. We sold that boat in Sweden in 2015, I think. And the boat's still in Sweden. We're in touch with the owner, and he just did a little mini refit on it, and it's sailing on the West Coast now, which is cool. I told him, I said, no matter where you are and when it is, even if it's 30 years from now, you have to tell me if you sell that boat. You have to give me the first chance to buy it back. He said, okay.
I don't know where my dad's boat is, except I got to tell you a quick story. Sixth Girl was that little 34-footer, and the one that won the boat of the year.
Is that the picture that's in the hallway?
Yeah, the little yawl.
Yep.
And after my dad sold her, because my dad never kept a boat more than a year, he got the next boat. He got Seventh Girl after Sixth Girl. We don't know what happened to her. And years later, and you can look it up on the internet, years later, a man wrote to me and said, I've just found this wreck of a boat called Sixth Girl. Can't even remember where it was. And he said, I can buy her and restore her. And somehow or other, he looked up Sixth Girl and found out her history. He said, did your dad have her built? Was that his boat? I said, yeah. He totally restored it, sails it everywhere.
Oh, wow.
He was a professor, I think, up in Upper New York State or something.
Now, this is cute, Pam. Sorry to interrupt,
it's a
but now we have the
baby.
baby raccoons on your deck.
Oh, my God.
They are cute.
See, they usually come at night.
Hi there, little baby raccoons.
Oh, my God. I wonder.
Do you know what a raccoon is called in Swedish?
No.
It's called a tvättbjörn, and that
Which is-
literally translates to a cleaning bear, because you know how they clean their hands in the
That's
water.
right.
Yeah,
That's
literally
right.
a cleaning bear in Swedish.
I've got to take a picture of this.
They're cute.
I haven't seen them. I just hear them at night,
Aw.
Anyway,
the professor,
the professor still writes to me. The boat is down in Luperon at the moment.
Oh, wow.
And it's gone through a couple of hurricanes down there and everything. And he's got a website on Facebook and stuff. I mean, a Facebook thing and everything. And it's a miracle that he put two and two together and found me.
That's extremely cool.
And then I sent him all the pictures of the trophies. See all those trophies up there?
Oh, yeah.
I have a kitchen. I mean, I have a garage full of my dad's other trophies, but they're all bowls.
Cool.
Anyway, Andy, it's been such a pleasure having you. Please come back soon.
I will.
And I just love talking to you. I mean, I just love talking with you. Thank you.
Same. Thanks, Pam. We did it. Thank you. That was great.
Oh, wow.
That was really great. Thanks again to Forbes for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. If you want to buy your dream boat or sell your current boat, go to ForbesYachts.com. That's Foxtrot, Oscar, Romeo, Bravo, Echo, Sierra, ForbesYachts.com. Thanks again to Dive Blue for presenting this episode of the podcast. Go to diveblue.com. That's DIVEBLU and the number 3 to check out the Nemo and Nomad tankless dive systems, and never hold your breath to fix a wrapped prop again. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 North and hosted by me, Andy Schell, and guest hosted by Nikki Henderson, August Sandberg, and Emma Garshagen. The show is mixed and produced in Frederick, Maryland by our own Lee Cumberland. Episode artwork and website show notes are created by Laura Parent out in San Francisco. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest, sailor, and musician Cameron Dale, while the outro music you're hearing right now is, of course, by our friends Storm Weather Shanty Choir out of Bergen, Norway. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com, and please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, hold fast.
I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you talked up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more.
once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip, don't go with any horse, but get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.